Hello, friends. It's Sam Chaney reporting for Weaponized News. Today, June 19th, 2026. Thank you for joining us on this Friday edition of Weaponized News. Happy Juneteenth, all you racists out there. All right, seriously, though, now. Let's get to all this crazy news on this Friday. No peace talks. No peace talks are going to happen there in Switzerland, as we were promised all week, sadly enough. And it wasn't hard to predict that Aardvark land was going to go ahead and stop the peace with Iran, bombing the hell out of Lebanon. We have all those details for you, sadly enough, here today. We've got, what else we got? We got a little bit of news about this reflecting pool there in D.C. We'll take a look at Tulsi Gabbard's exit from the Director of National Intelligence position. She put out a big report about Fauci. We told you this, 5 years ago? But okay, bro. And still no one gets in trouble. So we'll take a look at that. Public health news. We got economic news. We have more Epstein news, Botstein news. Epstein, Botstein. You can't make this stuff up. Epstein, Botstein. We got geopolitical news. We're going to take a look at Lebanon and Gaza. They're still stacking bodies. They're literally bombing refugees in tents there in Gaza. We'll take a look at the secret agents of evil. And the Department of War is rolling out a bunch of new weapons, or at least they're telling us about it publicly here now, laser weapons. We'll take a look at all that and much more on this Friday edition of Weaponized News. Some people coming online right now. Thank you for joining us on this Friday edition of Weaponized News. We have quite a bit to get to. I'm told by my producer, which is me, that I may be making an appearance later on Ruckus's Boiler Room. So we shall look forward to that. All right, let's get to this day in history. We have a lot of news to cover today, actually, on a Friday. On this day in history, we get it lined up here. On this day in history, we go back to the year 1269. And there was some noticing happening on this day. King Louis IV of France decrees all aardvarks must wear yellow badges in public or be fined 10 livres of silver. And so way before the evil Germans, you had the evil French there in 1269 noticing something was not quite right about these aardvarks. 1603. On this day, Murga Bien, arrested for witchcraft in Germany, part of the Fluta witch trials. She and about 250 other people were later burned at the stake. So that was pleasant out of Germany. On this day, 1790, we saw the French Revolution. Coming out of the French Revolution, the National Assembly issues a decree abolishing the titles, orders, and other privileges of French nobility. 1829, on this day, we saw the Metropolitan Police Act. Robert Peel introduces the Metropolitan Police Act of 1829 into Parliament to establish a unified police force for London, the city's first modern police force. And then they went on to go ahead and violate everybody's natural rights, as police do. Continuing here, 1862. 1862, on this day, slavery is outlawed in U.S. territories. In 1865, on this day, Juneteenth, Union General Gordon Granger declares slaves free in Texas. Now the date the end of slavery is celebrated across the United States as Juneteenth. We'll get to more of that in a little bit. 1912, on this day, Tennessee University is established as the Tennessee Agriculture and Industrial State Normal School for Negroes in Nashville, Tennessee. On this day, 1921, Turks and Christians of Palestine signed a friendship treaty with the Aardvarks. That was a big mistake, wasn't it? You will get no friendship. On this day, 1934, the Federal Communications Commission was created, the FCC, regulating the public airwaves. This is a crazy one. On this day in 1941, Soviet anthropologist Mikhail Grisomov opens the tomb of Timurid Emperor founder Timur and allegedly finds an inscription stating that whoever opens the tomb shall unleash an invader more terrible than I. 3 days later, Nazi Germany invaded the Soviet Union. And also on this day, in 1941, then U.S. President FDR signs the Two Ocean Navy Expansion Act, increasing the size of the U.S. Navy by 70%. On this day in 1964, Civil Rights Act of 1964 passes. On this day, 1978, Garfield comic strip debuts, created by cartoonist Jim Davis. 1991, on this day, Pablo Escobar, Colombian drug lord, is jailed after surrendering to police. And on this day, 2012, a man is beheaded for witchcraft and sorcery in Saudi Arabia. And then we have a few civil liberties on this day in our civil liberties history. We'll start with 1953. On this day, Ethel and Julius Rosenberg executed. Case filled with civil liberties problems. Julius and Ethel Rosenberg were executed on this day for allegedly stealing the secret to the atomic bomb and giving the information to the Soviet Union. They are the only Americans ever executed for espionage. Their case remains controversial to this day, involving many civil liberties violations, including collusion between the prosecutors and the judge. Historians generally agree that Julius Rosenberg was a member of a Soviet spy ring, and that he did give some information to his handlers. However, many argue that the stolen information was not the secret to the atomic bomb and had little real value. This is general agreement that Ethel Rosenberg did not participate in spying. However, in fact, it is believed that she was given the death penalty in the belief that the sentence would cause her to confess and provide evidence against her husband. On this day in our civil liberties history, 1961, exclusionary rule for the police, Mapp versus Ohio. The Supreme Court on this day ruled in Mapp versus Ohio that the exclusionary rule applied to state and local police departments. The exclusionary rule holds that evidence gained by police through an unconstitutional search in violation of the Fourth Amendment cannot be used in court against the defendant. On this day, 1968, first federal wiretapping law enacted, then President Johnson objects in signing statement. Title III of the Omnibus Crime Control and Safe Streets Act, passed by the Congress on this day, was the first U.S. law authorizing wiretapping. President Lyndon Baines Johnson objected to wiretapping law but signed the bill into law. The law required prosecutors to obtain a warrant from a judge for any wiretapping and to demonstrate that there is probable cause that a crime is being committed or is about to be committed. Before the law was passed, there was extensive wiretapping by federal, state, and local authorities, but it occurred in legal limbo. On this day in 1970, Second Circuit Court, legality of the Vietnam War a political question, not a constitutional issue. Malcolm Burke had been ordered to report to Fort Dix, for dispatch to Vietnam. He challenged the order, arguing that there had been no congressional declaration of war for the Vietnam War as required by the Constitution. In Burke versus Laird, the Second Circuit Court of Appeals upheld the district court rule on this day that the decision to go to war was a political question and not a matter of constitutional law. And then finally on this day in 1972, Supreme Court Fourth Amendment applies to domestic surveillance. In an extremely important decision on this day, the Supreme Court unanimously ruled in United States versus U.S. District Court that the Fourth Amendment requirement regarding searches applies to all surveillance cases in the U.S. The decision is often referred to as the Keith case, after U.S. District Court Judge Damon Keith. The Justice Department had prosecuted two members of the radical White Panther Party for conspiracy to destroy government property through bombing when the defense filed a pretrial motion for the prosecution to disclose the information it had from electronic surveillance. The Justice Department argued because the conspiracy involved an attempt to overthrow the government, the surveillance fell under the national security exception to Title III of the 1968 Omnibus Crime Control Act, which authorized domestic wiretapping. And Juneteenth, a little bit more. Juneteenth, short for June 19th, marks the day in 1864 when Union Major Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, to announce through General Order Number 3 that the state's estimated 250,000 slaves were to be freed under the Emancipation Proclamation. And then old Joe Biden with Barack Hussein Obama there in the back went ahead and made it a federal holiday, Juneteenth, to go ahead and further divide up America. As they talk out of this side of their mouth, we're all about unity, democracy. We care about America. They do nothing but divide us and bring back racism to America. Thank you very much, Barack Hussein Obama, Barry Soetoro, Joe Biden, and your whole crew. Thought we had progressed past that here in America, but you guys brought it back full-fledged with Juneteenth. We do appreciate your racist efforts. All right. And then to remind everybody, Free Thought Project Jason Bassler, this meme, they might have ended physical slavery in 1865, but they turned everyone into debt slaves in 1913. Thank you very much, Woodrow Wilson and the Federal Reserve Act for that. Everybody should look up monetary policy and actually figure out what country and planet you're in and on. Here's our segue to the news. What is going on with the reflecting pool there? It's now turned green, and it's become a giant source of controversy in DC for Trump ahead of 4th of July, America 250. Let's take a look at this video out of TMZ DC.
Why did we make scientists great again before we did this? It's a waste of taxpayers' money, and the hypocrisy among Republicans is galling, and I am fed up of living in a country where this stupidity is normalized.
What sells it for me is the accent and the mask, actually. And you look into this story a little bit more, turns out it's totally corrupt, like everything our government does. This is the guy that got the no-bid contract. Trump donor, John Cofferow. He got a no-bid contract to install a water purification system for the reflecting pool. He did have 2 prior convictions, one for bribing a member of Congress and the other for an illegal loan that violated campaign finance laws. And this guy's like literally a cartoon villain, right? It's just so over the top. You can't make this stuff up. So yeah, we're having major problems. And what is the deal there? Did somebody peel off the paint? I saw a post. Somebody peeled off a chunk of the blue paint and they're selling it on the internet. And they're saying that's in-stage capitalism. It's just, here's another short video about it. And this video even shows the chunk of the blue paint that was peeled off. Man, oh man. People are crazy, man.
Oh, it is blue. I'll have a big chunk of it for you. $18 million well spent.
So ridiculous. Trigger warning here now. J.D. Vance with the charm offensive, trying to convince us that he's a human, that he's actually a rational politician. I don't believe in it. He's Mr. Technocracy, installed as vice president by Elon Musk and Peter Thiel to bring about technocracy. Don't buy his rational talk. It's all an act.
Is anti-Semitic. And so I do think that sometimes, advocates of Israel or pro-Israel people in the United States make 2 critical mistakes. One, on the one hand, is not delineating between America's interests and Israeli interests, because they're not always the same. But the second is always conflating criticism of a particular government with Jew hatred. Because if everything is Jew hatred, then nothing is Jew hatred. I actually think Jew hatred is very bad, which is why I think we have to be very careful about not calling it's kind of like how progressives for 20 years called everything racist. And if everything's racism, nothing is.
Here in Fresno County, where I'm at, heir to Fresno County Raisin Company faces 9 years in antiseptic threats case. This is a crazy one. Prosecutors say 64-year-old Bruce Lyon, whose family owns Lyon Raisins based in Fresno County, threatened to kill the rabbi that lived next door to him. And now he's facing hate crime charges from LA County. He did this in LA County, but his company's based here in Fresno County. Down in LA County, he's facing hate crime charges for antiseptic behavior against his rabbi neighbor. And he's looking at, what is it? If he's convicted, I believe, he's facing 3 felony hate crimes charges. And if he's convicted on all of them, I don't think he'll get this, but 9 years in prison for hate crime and being antiseptic against his rabbi neighbor. Here's that story. Antiseptic threats case. Wild stuff. All right, more from JD Vance here.
I've heard you actually say that you think Israel and the United States have 2 different objectives as it relates to, I don't want to mischaracterize your words, but...
Well, what I'd say is that we're different countries with different interests. Yeah. I think in the United States, sometimes people characterize, Israel is a good partner to the United States. That is true. But sometimes people mischaracterize it and say that Israel and the United States are fundamentally always aligned. It's just not true. We're different countries. We have different needs. We have different geographies.
Do you trust them?
I don't trust anybody. When it comes to international affairs and diplomacy, do I think that they're very capable? Absolutely. Do I think that, again, when we have shared interests, we work together very well? Absolutely. But I don't trust anyone. And I think that we just have to continually be laser focused on.
So there you go. Very triggering, hateful from JD Vance. Don't believe him, though. It's all an act. That he's going to actually be a politician that makes some America first sense or just common sense in general. Nah, we can't have that. It's all fake, you see. They're playing good cop, bad cop. And the Washington Compost is on top of it, let me tell you. The owner, Jeff Bezos, says he hates everybody there, but that's a side note. U.S. intelligence warns Aardvark land is likely to undermine Iran peace deal, officials say. You think? Anybody paying attention could have told you that. And then, of course, Bibi, Shadow President of America, posting this video earlier today, killing the Lebanese. They do love to post their drone kill videos. They're like essentially snuff films, unless you're up. I guess you need to be up close to get the real thrill of it for these psychopaths, but they do love posting their drone kill videos. He said, as I instructed, the IDF struck powerfully 150 Hezbollah targets in Lebanon and eliminated dozens of terrorists. Aardvark Land Defense Minister Katz on Lebanon, he says the entire first line of Lebanese villages has been destroyed. We are destroying all houses. The residents will never see them standing before their eyes again. Ben Gavir, responding to JD Vance's antiseptic behavior, which again is all fake. For every tear shed by an Aardvark mother, 1,000 Lebanese mothers should cry. All of Lebanon should burn. It's a direct quote from Ben Gavir. Continuing, he says, with all due respect to the Americans, Aardvark Land must make it clear to the entire world that the blood of our sons and the security of our citizens are not up for grabs. All of Lebanon should burn. Our highest duty is to protect Aardvark Land citizens and IDF soldiers And that commitment comes before any other consideration. I tell the prime minister, including in our meetings, for every tear shed by an Aardvarkland mother, 1,000 Lebanese mothers should cry. Enough with the ping pong in the Middle East. You do not win through measured responses and restraint. You have to go crazy, erase, defeat terrorism. Ben Gvir, psychopath, head of Aardvarkland National Security Minister there. Complete. And I did see some posts. He's now restricted for violent incitement of violence on X, surprisingly enough. The liberal X. All right. And then what does Iran have to say about all this? Well, Iran's foreign minister, Argachai, pointed to the post by Ben Gvir. Argachai said, well, I'll put up the post here. Argachai said, this is not a rant by a random genocidal lunatic. It's a public post by the national security minister of the Aardvarkland regime, the genocidal death cult headquartered in Tel Aviv is a threat to all of humanity. It threatens all humans. Its only interest is permanent war. Kind of hard to argue with old dirty Iranian Argachai there, right? Kind of hard to argue with them on that point. While Hezbollah are committed to violating the ceasefire and creating instability, we are committed to protecting our civilians across the region or operating against terror. The IDF said, well, he gave us the message in English, so let's hear it.
Overnight, Hezbollah once again attacked IDF soldiers operating in southern Lebanon to protect Israeli civilians. We lost 4 of our soldiers. They were killed while protecting their country.
They're occupying all this land. They even give you a nice map and they show you. So, protecting their country means the illegal occupation of southern Lebanon.
Over the course of weeks, and including last night, Hezbollah has launched hundreds of explosive drones and rockets at Israeli civilians and soldiers. These attacks by Hezbollah are violations of the ceasefire. They prove that Hezbollah's goals remain the same: to remain on Israel's borders and to plan and carry out attacks on our civilians. This is not a reality we can accept, and this is exactly why the IDF continues to operate in southern Lebanon. Recent events have made one thing clear: IDF soldiers must stand between Hezbollah and Israeli civilians. We will not wait for the next attack to reach our homes. We will continue to remove immediate threats, respond to Hezbollah's violations, and do whatever is necessary to protect our civilians. Our mission remains the same: to ensure that Hezbollah cannot rebuild itself and pose a threat to our civilians.
They're the aggressors. Lebanese government won't even fight back against them, barely. Hezbollah militia group is all the people of Lebanon have between them and getting run over by an Aardvark tank. And people are saying, I saw some people saying, well, they should have learned something from Ukraine. Tanks are out, bro. And so their tanks are getting blown up. They're getting pissed off. And it's like, tanks are last year or 5 years ago. You got to up your game there, IDF, because tanks are getting taken out. Here's Trump getting fact-checked on the X. Says Iran is finished. Right out of the White House. We didn't meet out of desperation. Iran did. They are finished. We'll play out the 60 days. They get no money, not 10 cents. And then the fact check came in here and they say, per Article 6 of the Islamabad MOU, the United States committed to a $300 billion plus reconstruction plan for Iran, finalized within 60 days, contradicting no money, not 10 cents. I don't know, Musk and technocracy. Old X is getting pretty liberal over there. Just saying. More from blowhard Trump here. The war has diminished Iran. It doesn't any longer have an air force, a navy, anti-aircraft equipment, radar, or practically anything else. And yet the Democrats say that Iran is better off now than it was 4 months ago. Can you imagine getting away with that? How stupid can some people be? It's the Democrats are dumb. No, it's you're dumb for buying Bibi's propaganda and lies. They're going to nuke us in 2 weeks. Every freaking administration since Bibi came to power has come out and said, yeah, he tried to sell us that same BS and we didn't buy it, but Trump bought it. I don't know, Miriam Adelson, 200 million plus whatever it was, campaign contributions. And now she's come out in her Aardvarkland newspaper saying, you failed, Trump. And here's, again, we covered this yesterday, but again, for anybody that missed it, I guess this is the official. It's told BS. In a university, they said never cite WikiLeaks. But I guess it's official. This is what people cite. And you can see right here, 2026 Iran war. And what was the result? Iranian victory. I don't know. They're saying there on the Wikipedia that it was an Iran victory. Statement out of U.S. Central Command from Brad Cooper, CENTCOM commander. I could not be prouder of our 15,000 men and women in uniform who supported the blockade over the past 2 months. Their dedication and professionalism were on full display every day, ensuring strict enforcement while still supporting humanitarian aid flow. There is no mission too great for our war fighters who make up the most powerful military the world has ever known. And then, of course, U.S. CENTCOM logo sitting right on top of the Persian Gulf there. The good news, I guess, is ships are transiting through the Strait of Hormuz now, causing oil prices to go down. We'll get to more of that reporting. More out of Iran. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Baghdadi confirmed today that the meeting scheduled to take place in Switzerland has been postponed to a later date. No peace talks today, bro. Baghdadi said that under Article 13 of the Memorandum of Understanding, negotiations on a final agreement can only begin once Articles 1, 4, 5, 10, and 11 are implemented and continue to be upheld. Article 1 calls for the immediate and permanent end to military operations on all fronts, including Lebanon. Articles 4 and 5 outline the reciprocal lifting of U.S. and Iranian restrictions and the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. Article 10 commits the United States to immediately issuing waivers for Iranian oil exports and related services, while Article 11 requires Washington to make Iran's frozen and restricted funds and assets fully available for use. He added that consultations through mediators are ongoing and that Iran will announce a new date for talks once the necessary conditions for negotiations have been met. We can't even sit down and talk because aardvark land is killing people. Not hard to figure out, and at least Vance is out there halfway shooting us straight for whatever it's worth, because it's self-evident. All right, continuing here onto a little technocracy news. We'll come back to Iran in the geopolitical section, second half of the show. Jason Bassler Free Thought Project posted this. Virginia is now rolling out AI-equipped stop signs. It will log drivers and auto report to police. Safety is always the sales pitch. Do we really want every aspect of our lives to become an AI police zone, data harvesting checkpoint? Virginians must stop this madness. But Virginia elected a CIA governor there. So, I mean, probably not even elected, probably installed, but however you may see it, they do have a former CIA agent as their governor there in Virginia. And so this is what you get. This is what you get. Stop sign camera enforced. It's just beyond ridiculous. But anything for public safety to build out the technocracy. And so here's Elon Musk telling us things won't be measured in dollars than just mass and energy. The energy certificate, i.e. Technocracy Inc., i.e. Musk grandpappy, starting all of this way back in the 1930s. And now the agenda is coming into view with Elon Musk, the alleged richest man in the world, barreling forward with the scientific dictatorship technocracy future we all voted for, right? No, nobody voted for that. Qatari Air Force One here now. Here's the new Air Force One from Qatar, essentially a bribe to the Trump administration. It is a nice plane. But at what cost? But at what cost did we take this plane? And Trump says he's not keeping this plane. It's for the government. Well, that is a very nice plane. We're out here still trying to figure out how to afford groceries. And they're touting $500 million jumbo jet aircraft and how wonderful it all is. Fox News poll, most rate the economy negatively. They're panicking, right? Can't afford groceries? You're a panicking. But the reason I bring up this poll is we can get this number to zero if we work really hard, a la Bill Gates, right? On his efforts to depopulate through CO2 emission reduction, i.e. you are the CO2 to be reduced. But this, according to Fox News poll, a record low 25% trust the federal government. And so if we work real hard, we can get this number to zero by the end of the year. All you have to do is open your eyes. And so who are these 25%? I'd say most of them probably work for the federal government, and the rest are watching Fox News. And so 75% of the country does not trust the federal government. It should be actually 100% does not trust the federal government at this point. If you have a memory of the bad times, that should have been enough. And all the treachery since. The story the media and the government don't want you to hear from Senator Ron Johnson, and due to, we're not going to report the whole thing because that is right. They don't want you to hear it. And it's against community standards on the YouTube to report some of this stuff, I do believe still. But I will put up the link to this report on Weaponized News Substack channel. Everybody can just go to Senator Ron Johnson's X and you can see it. But he talks about in here how, yeah, they knew and we knew. Back when it mattered, we knew because we were following VAR's data. And we knew that the bat miracles were causing major problems, i.e. adverse reactions, i.e. deaths. But yeah, now it's coming out that indeed federal health authorities turned a blind eye to safety signals. And he lays it all out here, naming a few of these characters at the FDA and so on and so on and so forth. So he lays it all out there and still no one gets in trouble. On her final day, Miss Illuminati PsyOps, Tulsi Gabbard, final day as Director of National Intelligence, she throws Fauci under the bus one more time, as if we didn't already know all this already. But here it is one more time, demoralization ritual, as still no one gets in trouble. We reported all this at the time and got banned for our efforts at Weaponized News.
COVID pandemic. Dr. Fauci, as head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, provided millions in U.S. taxpayer dollars to fund dangerous gain-of-function research on bat coronaviruses at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, work which is now widely viewed as the source of the unintentional lab leak that sparked the pandemic. Now, in support of President Trump's maximum transparency mandate, today, on my final day as Director of National Intelligence, I'm releasing never-before-seen communications and documents that expose exactly how Fauci worked with politicized career leadership in the intelligence community to suppress the truth about his actions, the virus's lab leak origins, and his role in directing U.S. funding for this dangerous research that caused immeasurable harm and countless lost lives. Now, these documents expose Fauci's direct role in influencing and manipulating IC assessments on COVID-19 and how Fauci lied to Congress in 2024 when under oath he denied knowledge of or participation in discussions with intelligence officials about viral research. We also received testimony from multiple intelligence community whistleblowers who reported retaliation for challenging the intelligence community's manipulation of intelligence on the virus's origins, once again revealing a clear pattern of suppressing dissent, silencing critics, and burying the truth. Dr. Fauci's close relationships with the intelligence community enabled him to assume three key roles that shield him from scrutiny. First, Dr. Fauci funded dangerous gain-of-function coronavirus research linked to Big Pharma and their pursuit of universal vaccines worth trillions of dollars. Second, Dr. Fauci was the behind-the-scenes advisor who, alongside his hand-picked so-called experts, pushed the intelligence community to endorse a natural animal origin to hide his dangerous gain-of-function research that he funded using taxpayer dollars, all of this in a deliberate attempt to cover up the truth and shift the blame and attention away from Fauci's own actions. Third, Dr. Fauci became the nation's pandemic pundit, and he publicly pushed lies, disinformation, and censorship using every platform available. Now, according to hundreds of reviewed emails, which are included in this release, the intelligence community almost always incorporated Fauci's recommendations. He promoted a fraudulent paper whose publication he helped prompt as legitimate information for intelligence community consideration. Senior analysts praised Dr. Fauci not as a policymaker, but as what they called an unbiased guide to the real coronavirus experts, while deliberately ignoring experts who might dissent from Fauci's narratives. Now, Fauci didn't stop there. He blatantly lied to Congress under oath during his 2024 testimony to the House Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic, denying that he ever spoke to any intelligence agency about COVID. Now, the correspondence I'm releasing today directly contradicts his sworn testimony. Now, we received statements from multiple whistleblowers revealing that the intelligence analysts who dared to challenge Dr. Fauci's COVID origin conclusions faced threats of retaliation, marginalization, and many suffered career setbacks. For example, a contractor was terminated just days after coming forward to ODNI as a whistleblower. Another example, those who advocated for the lab leak hypothesis or expressed dissenting views were reminded by their managers that leadership would determine which analysts would be promoted and which would not. The message was clear: go along or be punished. Now, senior leaders also sought to undermine whistleblowers by removing anonymity, which is required in the whistleblower process, as they made their complaints, and also insisting that their managers or attorneys be present during ODNI meetings where these whistleblowers were coming forward with their testimony, obviously creating an atmosphere of intimidation. The COVID pandemic caused tremendous hardship and pain for millions of our fellow Americans and countless people around the world. Now, after years of lies and censorship and cover-ups, the American people deserve transparency, truth, and accountability. The tactics that were used to hide the truth are straight from the deep state playbook. Politicized self-serving leaders like Dr. Fauci covered up their own wrongdoing and abuses of power, manipulated intelligence, lied to Congress, and undermined a duly elected president by restricting his access to the vital facts he needed to keep the country safe. It's time you know the truth.
We've been knowing the truth, old intelligence lady there. We've been done knowing. So I'll post the links to all this. There are a bunch of documents in the report, a bunch of one 122 pages, another one 78 pages, another one just a one-pager. I guess that's the index. Another one 94-pager and a 97-pager. Anyhow, I'll post all of that Weaponized News Substack, or you could just go to DNI Gabbert on the X and link through to all these documents for those interested about it. I guess it is significant. It's now official, but still no one gets in trouble. Instead of making the video about the report, I want to see you walk down to wherever Fauci's at and freaking cuff him. You know what I mean? But no. Fauci, the Jesuit, Georgetown professor, is teaching public health, laughing about all of this. They've been trying to get the public health scares going again, as they do. This time with Ebola, junta, the mouse attacks didn't really work out. We moved on to Ebola. The Democratic Republic of Congo Ebola outbreak has spread across 33 health zones in 3 provinces, with 896 cases and 232 deaths reported 1 month after the outbreak was declared. A WHO official warned the virus may just be spreading undetected, particularly among displaced populations with limited access to healthcare. WHO has deployed more than 115 specialists and delivered 110 metric tons of emergency medical supplies. While 78 people have recovered after receiving treatment, Uganda has now gone 12 consecutive days without reporting a new case. And that's a report out of Reuters. All right, we're doing pretty good here, I think, getting through all of the news for you. On to, you can't make this stuff up. The memes make themselves. Apparently, the memes are making themselves. Botstein. This guy right here looks like freaking a clone of Aleister Crowley with Epstein, right? Bard College president. Botstein. I thought it was fake when I first saw the report of this college professor named Botstein. I was like, that's fake, right? That's Hasbro, right? No, turns out it's real. This guy really is named Leon Botstein, and he's best buddies with Epstein that didn't kill himself, right? Anyhow, he's under investigation. Now, I believe he was forced to resign from his position as president there at Bard College. And I know that Mac out there had some run-ins with these characters. So the U.S. House Committee on the Judiciary is investigating Bard College as part of a vast inquiry into how Jeffrey Epstein operated a billion-dollar international sex trafficking operation. Yeah. Like, seriously. President Leon Steinstein. Again, you can't make this stuff up. So they're part of it, and Mac has some stories about it. Frank Stronach, international Magna international founder, is found guilty in sex crimes case. The 93-year-old Austrian Canadian billionaire was found guilty of sexual assault and indecent assault in cases stretching back decades. That's a report out of the Wall Street Journal. Frank Stronach, the founder of auto parts giant Magna International, was found guilty today of sexual assault and indecent assault in cases involving two women that stretch back decades. Why are all of these guys just set? I guess we come to learn the only way you get in the club is you got to do these crimes. They get blackmail on you, i.e. gang initiation, to show that you're down with the gang. As your street gang has to go do an armed robbery, has to do a murder. These guys, they do murders too. They have to do a rape and a murder, it seems, and create a snuff film. So they have blackmail on them, and then you get in the Epstein gang, essentially, here now. So these are just gang members with a whole lot more money because they're in the central banking gang, as opposed to your Joe Blow street gang. Same thing, just a lot higher level, but same criminal activity. DOJ refusing to release old Epstein emails that could expose Trump. The Department of Justice claims that it's released every document that's required under the Epstein Files Transparency Act, but the agency previously said it collected more than 6 million pages of materials during its investigation into Epstein, and it only released around 3 million. So what's in the rest of the Epstein files? Well, that's a big question. And who's behind those big redactions? Those are outstanding questions as the Epstein files cover-up continues. What's missing from the Epstein files? Questions persist about unexplained redactions, missing documents, and email gaps. That's right. Right around before and after 9/11, we were lied to about 9/11. There's a gap missing. What did Epstein and his correspondents, his crew, his gang, his cult, whatever you want to call these criminals, what were they talking about before, leading up to, during, and after 9/11? That's what I want to know about. That is missing from the Epstein files. That chunk of time. ZBS News here says they got some questions. Questionable redactions, including public figures' names, most Epstein emails from older accounts not included in files, missing email attachments, no record of signal communications, lack of massage scheduling records after 2009, missing prison surveillance footage, missing documents from DEA investigation, other potential relevant materials from ICE, Treasury, CIA, and other agencies were not included because the law only applies to DOJ records. There's a whole lot more dirt. And who has the blackmail tapes? Well, we know the FBI has them because they raided Epstein's Island, his the ranch, the townhouse in New York. They have all of this blackmail material there at the FBI. You better believe that. Better believe that. And again, it wasn't just sex trafficking. Epstein was a super spy working for the Rothschilds, smuggling contraband, you name it, weapons, drugs, kids, whatever contraband you can name, he's into it. Part of Rothschild secret spy network. Inside the hunt for powerful officials who shielded Epstein. Where's this out of MSN? A special investigative panel in New Mexico has dramatically expanded its hunt for answers. According to a report by Reuters, state lawmakers approved a fresh wave of subpoenas targeting federal prosecutors across the United States. Covered that yesterday. The state of New Mexico is now subpoenaing federal prosecutors. Epstein emailed that Trump sexually assaulted a woman in Ivanka's bedroom. They later reached a settlement for the assault. Here is that email in the Epstein files. The allegation, Harth claimed that Trump made repeated unwanted sexual advances as she and her romantic partner at the time, George Auerney, pursued a business relationship with the mogul in the early 1990s. She said that on January 24th, 1993, at Mar-a-Lago, Trump offered her a tour of the estate, then pulled her into his daughter Ivanka's empty bedroom. He pushed me up against the wall and had his hands all over me and tried to get up my dress, Harth said. And I had to physically say, "What are you doing? Stop it." It was a shocking thing to have him do this because he knew I was with George. He knew they were in the next room. And how could he be doing this when I'm there for business? In 1997, Harth and Auerney sued Trump for breach of contract, and she filed a separate sexual harassment suit accusing him of attempted rape. They reached a confidential settlement in the contract suit, and as part of the agreement, Harth withdrew her suit. Here's a funny one. Somebody made UFC style Trump versus Epstein files. And we got to kill the music. Apologies, they'll copyright tag me. But they're playing the Rocky theme song there. Trump versus Epstein files, 80-year-old versus 20-year-old investigation. Yeah. Bondi as the ring girl. And who's that? Joe Rogan as the monkey. Yeah. Looks about right to me there. Someone made that little slideshow and projected it. I don't see where. I guess if you dig deeper, you can find out where. Peter Thiel loved the secret society idea. That's what Jeffrey Epstein wrote in a 2016 email. Here's that email. Peter Thiel loved the secret society idea. He has done a lot of work on the concept, all failed so far. And you can see Epstein too, who? Joni Ito, but they redacted the email address. I want to join the secret society. What? I can't. No? Okay. Can't get that email. It's been redacted. And then, yeah, here you go. Wire Magazine made this meme. I wish I would have saw it yesterday when I was struggling to find it. But again, Wire Magazine has published this article about Dialogue, Peter Thiel's secret society. And you can see right there, the registration data for Dialogue's 2026 retreat lays out a program of off-the-record sessions, including how does, buy money, money does buy happiness, money does buy happiness, bring back nuclear, navigating World War III, how's your sex life? Other talks include build a cult, moderated by the founder of the Christian networking site pray.com. And then turns out old Tulsi Gabbard's on the list. Is that how they do it? She's on the list, bro. So here's the list of some, per Wire Magazine, of some of these higher ups that are part of Peter Thiel's Dialogue Club or secret society. And you can see right here, Tulsi Gabbard, high up in Army PSYOPs. Now former Director of National Intelligence. Funny how that works. But she cares about public transparency and bringing about justice for the tyranny they did during the bad times. Sure, bro. Sure. All right, we're at the hour mark, past the hour mark a little bit. Let's take our live commercial break. Everybody give me that like, share, subscribe, push that notification button, please. Went through an hour of hardcore news there, commercial free. Give me the like, share, subscribe, push that notification button. Everybody go to weaponizednews.com/shop. The link's in the description below this video. Get yourself a holograph Weaponized News sticker for Pride Month. We have the white background if you're not into Pride Month. And we have the clear background. Go check out weaponizednews.com/shop. The link's in the description below this video. We have t-shirts, coffee mugs, baseball caps, all kind of different gear over there, a few different books as well. Go check out the shop. It's much appreciated. We take donations as well. Buy me a coffee, Bitcoin wallet address, Cash App links are all in the description below this video. Become a paid subscriber at Weaponized News Substack channel. Over there, we provide the show streaming live right now on Substack. You get the full show, a summary of the show, and links to almost everything we talk about for documentation and further research purposes at Weaponized News Substack. The link's in the description below this video. Become a paid subscriber there. Help support independent reporting and analysis brought to you 5 days a week. Broadcasting live, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 Eastern Time, weaponizednews.com/shop. Weaponized News Substack in the description below this video. Thank you to the patrons of the store. some of the orders, I don't know, on the back end, whatever's happening, we have some issues. I'm going to work to sort it out for you. You know who you are out there. We'll correspond through the email, and we'll make sure we get your order right. And a couple people now, we have different kind of issues anyway. I'll sort out the business end on the back end here. Just email. We'll make your order good to go. So thank you to all the patrons to the store, donors, and paid subscribers and unpaid subscribers as well, but especially the people that understand it takes some money. It takes me a lot of time, effort, and energy to put together this broadcast. There are overhead costs on the back end. So everything, all the funding that I get goes right back into Weaponized News. All right, friends, thank you for all your support, bearing with me through those commercial messages. Welcome back to the second half of Weaponized News on this Friday, June 19th, 2026 edition. Happy June 19th. Juneteenth, as it's called. On to the economic section of the show. Iran has signed an MOU to buy military equipment from Russia. Jeff Bezos sees more jobs created in the new economy, not less, according to Fortune magazine. And somebody underneath that headline posted some robots that are working at the Amazon warehouse, and they say, yeah, meanwhile, yeah, Jeff Bezos, major player in technocracy and scientific dictatorship. So they continue to run the good cop, bad cop. It's the end of jobs, the end of human labor. Oh, no, bro. It's fine. It's fine. No, they're rolling out humanoid robots that for the most mundane tasks, like sitting there on a mail sorting line, for example, Figure a couple months ago, and I saw them posting some more stuff. I didn't have time to look at it today, but yeah, humanoid robots for a mundane job as a sorter. You know, the mail's coming through the chute, or packages are coming through the chute, and they're right there sorting them. A human used to do that until recently. Now humanoid robots are filling that role in the economy. The affordability crisis is so bad. For the first time ever, both mom and dad are working full time in most American families. It's been that way as long as I can remember my entire life. And they literally made up, and Trump admits it, they made up the word affordability. It's called, we're in an economic recession, depression, and they rig up the economic data to paper over that fact. What is it? The value of the dollar has been, since 1913, it's gone down like 99% due to unlimited issuance of currency by the Federal Reserve. Home ownership rates in Canada raising for recent immigrants and falling for Canadian-born Canadians for the first time. That's data out of StatsCan. And so we do love our immigrants taking away from the native population. California Labor Union offers to scale back billionaire tax after pushback. Billionaire tax is now on the November ballot here in California. And so they always say a slippery slope. I do believe it is the case, because we're going to tax the rich and get those dirty billionaires. That's all well and fine. How about we don't create the billionaires by giving them no bid insider government contracts in the first place? I don't know, just an idea. So again, problem, reaction, solution. The government creates the problem, these dirty billionaires, and then the public cries out, we got to do something about these dirty billionaires. Well, we're going to tax them. California says, yeah, tax the rich. Well, it turns out once this is in, they'll tax the rich a little bit. The majority of capital will flee. It's called capital flight, right? And so the majority of capital will leave this state, and then they'll start looking to scavenge the bones of whatever's left, going after property owners, and they'll get down to, you're close enough to a billionaire. You're like, bro, I'm making minimum wage. They're like, you're taxed too. And that's how all this is going to work. That's how all this is going to work. Tax the rich, bro. Sounds good on paper. It's not even the intent. The problem was created by said government. Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution. They'll be taxing your freaking minimum wages, saying you're a billionaire before you know it. You better believe it. Continuing here. The Trump meme coin generated about $616 million for the Trump family, while buyers lost more than $700 million, according to Reuters estimates. And so another con rug job by Trump on his supporters. You'd think they'd be mad. Apparently, they love being conned, ripped off, lied to, humiliated. So it's starting to look like Trump is just one giant humiliation ritual on his idiot followers, whoever's left here now. You are in a cult at this point. You're in a cult of personality following lying criminal con man Trump off of a cliff while he rips you off and you cheer it on. The token launched, the Trump token, the meme coin launched on January 17, 2025, 3 days before Donald Trump's inauguration, and pulled in at least $1.2 billion from investors. But by late April 2026, those investors were sitting on holdings worth approximately $521 million. The token peaked at $75.35 and slid to around $2.38, a nearly 97% decline. And so, they rugged their MAGA supporters in the Trump meme coin cryptocurrency offering. And they love it. So if you're a sadomasochist and you love abuse, continue to follow Trump and buy all of his schemes, scams, and frauds, and you will love the abuse. Time for a good story. Upon all of this death, destruction, deception, and affordability crisis, recession, depression, actually, upon all of this news, some good news. Now, some cats have been saved. Some cats have been saved in Vietnam. Over 400 cats saved from being eaten in Vietnam. Police in Ho Chi Minh City busted a major pet theft and cat meat trading ring, rescuing over 400 cats allegedly destined for slaughter and arresting 9 suspects, according to a report out of the Associated Press. At least 40 cats have now been reunited with their owners. So that's a pretty good cat story for a Friday. And all the hype around Grand Theft Auto 6 coming out. Pre-orders for Grand Theft Auto 6 will officially begin June 25th. And that's, I guess, where all this hype about Grand Theft Auto, how they're trying to jump on the back of it, the federal government is, right? We saw a bunch of memes out of the White House, public health, a bunch of memes about Grand Theft Auto. It's like, this is stupid. Well, this is what they're trying to jump on the back of the hype for it. No feds, you'll never be cool. You're all garbage. And so have fun trying to jump on the back of this video game release, which is obviously what they're doing. Okay, and some more good news here now for the summer is the price of a gallon of gasoline is below $4 here now, according to AAA. Not much lower, but the national average for the cost of a gallon of gasoline here across America on average is $3.97. And so we've broken the $4 threshold, and it's gone down. It's down, let's say, 2 cents from yesterday. And so, yeah, it's good news. Good news. But all of this is, of course, contingent on peace with Iran. The Strait of Hormuz is open, but hey, it's looking very shaky just at the least. The Iran War Tracker out of Brown University, the Watson School of International and Public Affairs, we've now broken $60.5 billion, the total consumer cost burden of the Iran war on the American people. It started February 28, 2026. And here it is. Let's take a look at the tracker. Breaking $60.5 billion. And the cost burden across both gasoline and diesel per U.S. household, you can see right here, is $461.81. And so we do appreciate losing the war to Iran by all accounts. And this giant cost burden of killing 3,500 Iranian civilians at an estimated cost of $33 million per Iranian civilian death. The newly established Persian Gulf Authority, PGSA, sounds like golfers, right? But no, they're not golfers. They're the Persian Gulf Strait Authority, has announced that vessel seeking to cross the Strait of Hormuz must submit transit requests at least 48 hours in advance and coordinate designated routes and passage times during the 60-day MOU period. Iran says security, safety, environmental service fees. We're not charging fees, bro. They got a gun right there. They're like, this is for the environment. Literally. Environmental service fees and related insurance costs. The insurance is racketeering because you pay us insurance money or we shoot you in the face. And they're like, here's the money. Well, we ensure that you're not shot in the face. Oh, that's a great deal. Thank you very much. Related insurance costs will be covered by the Iranian government, indicating Iran plans to institute those costs at the end of the period. So, and here's the press release from the Persian Gulf Strait Authority on this matter. Right there. Right there. Yeah, it's free to go through there. You do have to pay the environmental fee and insurance at the point of a gun. It's free, free passage there. The latest out of the Strait of Hormuz, Kepler, which is this tracking agency, right? What are they called? Intelligence Tools for Trade, they call themselves. Kepler says 25 vessels crossed the strait yesterday, the highest level since April, but still well below the roughly 120 to 140 daily transits that were averaging before the Iran war. So trying to get up to full transit capacity through the Strait of Hormuz, but in large part, the damage has already been done. Inputs into agriculture have been cut off, i.e., you miss the planting season. Fertilizer, other inputs into agricultural production, we will see a sharp decline. The third and fourth world will see millions starve to death because of this. The supply chain is a complicated thing in many industries, and so it's still going to take a long time to unwind the shutdown of the Strait of Hormuz and get back to full operating capacity in many industries. The most significant, of course, the robots, because we eat silicone. No, the most significant, obviously, the agricultural industries. for the third and fourth world. So it's going to push millions of people into starvation and tens of millions into abject poverty, all by design. An engineered famine is still upon the third and fourth world due to the Iran war, all part of the agenda, you see. And when Trump's destroying, at least publicly, I do believe, as we report here, they're all in it at the very top level in these secret societies, laughing about all this public drama, but publicly. And there is something to be said about public perception as a driving force in action in this world. Trump totally fabricated claim that old Giorgia Meloni, the prime minister of Italy, begged him for help. And so this has caused an international incident as she's pushed back on these claims. Do we have the, yeah, so Trump claimed in this photo that she was begging for help when they were meeting here at the G7. Trump claimed she was begging for help there. She says that's a lie by Trump and has now come out and said that Italy and I never beg. She says, I don't know why President Trump behaves this way with his allies. Good question. Because he's an asshole? Because it's all part of the Masonic stage show called politics? But yeah, for public consumption, he's a total asshole making up stories that she's begging for help for Italy from him at the G7. She denies the claims and calls it very insulting and goes on. We have a video of her, but she's speaking in Italian. And yeah, so she's just basically, I can only say that it's a shame he doesn't have the same determination with the enemies of the West, with the enemies of the United States, with the leadership with which he instead appears much more accommodating. Yeah. So, and she went on to rail against Trump. We reported this yesterday, but it is significant now again as Cuba is trying to dodge a U.S. invasion. They're already suffering under heavy U.S. sanctions and a naval blockade. But again, Cuba's National Assembly unanimously approved more than 175 economic reforms that would mark the largest shift away from the island's state-dominated socialist model since the 1959 revolution. The measures would allow private banks, private real estate development, businesses with more than 100 employees, ownership of multiple companies, and the sale of state-owned property to both Cubans and foreign investors. President Miguel Diaz-Canel said Cuba was not renouncing socialism and that the moves were not related to negotiations with the United States. He said the reforms would be beneficial to the country amid decades of U.S. sanctions and a recent U.S. oil blockade, and has pushed Cuba's economy deeper into economic crisis. Yeah, sure, it has nothing to do with the banker said, bro, you either give us action on your island or we're going to shoot you in the face, basically. Same routine. It's racketeering. Straight up racketeering. Now on to the Department of War. Let's hear from Department of War Undersecretary Emil Michael.
The drone part of warfare really did start during the Ukraine war. I remember I was served in the Pentagon for 1 year in 2009, and we had our first drone. It was the Predator drone, and it was incredibly political to create something that was unmanned back then. It was a big lumbering sort of thing. So, but it was very small numbers that we had. And now fast forward to the Ukraine-Russia war, where each side's producing hundreds of thousands and you've millions of drones. So then our domestic industry started to say, okay, well, we need drones. And so lots of small companies got started. And what was happening is they weren't interoperating with one another. So you see these Chinese drone swarms, these sort of light shows, if you will. Well, those could be weaponized, and you could have a drone swarm attack on a military base and so on. So you need a lot of drones to be able to do those kinds of things, to make sure there's balance in that. And so we said, well, what's the way to get massive numbers of drones? Well, you can't have 100 providers, because then you give small orders to each of them. They can't quite survive. But then you also don't want to create a situation where there's no competition. So let's have this drone dominance program. Take all these companies, have them do tests, fly-offs we call them, where they could test their drones, make sure they can interoperate, so they all talk the same language effectively, so they can be controlled together. And then we'll down select from to 20, and then to 10, and then to 5, and then the 5 get big contracts, private capital crowds around them. And then they could build up their arsenal, if you will, to produce hundreds of thousands of these. And the other thing that's important to know about the drone program is that it has to be American made. A lot of these parts, and this goes to a broader problem in our defense industrial base, have been outsourced to adversarial nations. Critical minerals, batteries, brushless motors, a lot of the things that go into a drone, and not to mention other things. So we have to redomesticate that supply chain.
Just say China, bro. Just say China. Okay, Assistant Secretary of War Mike Dodd. This guy loves the exotic. He loves posting about the exotic directed energy weapons. Today he posted about laser weapons. Laser weapons are neutralizing drones, and this is just the beginning. The Archimedes directed energy system knocked out more than 25 of them as part of a review of 60 counter drone platforms. We're putting the best tech in our war fighters' hands fast. And it's this right here. And Eureless trials, counter drone laser weapon for Pentagon. And it's these guys right here. They do have a fancy website, and these are combining high power directed energy lasers, advanced sensors, and AI autonomy. Archimedes tracks, targets, and neutralizes aerial threats in seconds when deployed in numbers. Archimedes units form a resilient defense grid, creating persistent protection for forces, facilities, and critical infrastructure. Yeah, I want one of these too, laser defense systems. Pretty badass, actually. Detects, tracks, locks onto group 1 and 2 UAS threats without an operator from acquisition to engagement. Imagine that. Directed energy, sub-second lethal at speed of light, no ammo, no resupply, unlimited engagements. Imagine that. If it does what they say, it is quite a weapon. Ground, air, sea, and fixed installations whenever the threat appears. Imagine that in the back of your pickup. You got one of these things. That's true Second Amendment right there. Yeah, they won't allow civilians to have true Second Amendment and access to directed energy weapons, sadly enough. But they're rolling them out. They're hot and heavy, and they go on and on. There's a bunch more actually about it. For those interested, I'll post the links at Weaponized News Substack, and you can go take a look at some of this directed energy technology right from the Department of War. So Aardvark Land says the next threat is Syria and Turkey. Bigger threat than even Iran, Aardvark Land minister says. Yesterday, Aardvark Land Diaspora Affairs Minister Chikli declared in an interview with Aardvark Land Army Radio that Tel Aviv, quote, will be at war with Syria sooner or later, highlighting that the alliance between Damascus and Turkey poses a strategic challenge to the country. The Likud official said there is no way that a jihadist regime rooted in ISIS and Al-Qaeda, whose aspiration is the unification of Jerusalem, can live in peace alongside the state of Aardvark Land. I don't know. Old Syrian president wasn't buying. He's not buying what Trump's selling to become a proxy army and go ahead and attack Lebanon, Hezbollah. Levant 24 is launching a daily tracker of reported Aardvark Land military activity inside Syria. They're building the greater Aardvark Land project as we continue to report. They're taking all of Gaza. They're taking all of the occupied West Bank. They'd like to take all of Syria. They've already taken part of Syria. They're taking Lebanon. They'd like to take it all. When are they going to go and they'll probably start trying to take some of Jordan and start trying to take some of Egypt at this point. I don't know how you guys are going to fare against Turkey. But they're eyeing Turkey. They're eyeing Turkey. And old Erdogan, Turkey president, has strong rhetoric against them, but never does jack, right? And has business dealings with them. So he's not boycotting them. So strong rhetoric, but you know them by their fruits. Anyhow, they're signaling here now. The next major fronts will be against Syria and Turkey. Well, they're already fighting like an 8-front war. They've already pissed off the entire world, right? And they're like, oh, poor me, the Germans in World War II. Poor me. No, bro, look at what you guys are doing. That's a dead letter already. And Trump, short clip praising Secretary of War Pete Hegseth as a winner, where it's now official, according to Wikipedia, that we lost the war to Iran.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And I also want to thank, I think, a natural-born warrior. His name is Pete Hegseth, and he has done, working with the generals and everybody else, he's a natural, I believe. Well, so far we've been winning all the time. We're not going to lose. He doesn't know how to lose, and he's a tough cookie, and he loved, the first day I met him, I said, this guy really loves the military. Very successful, great colleges, went to the...
Yeah, complete psychopath. Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War. We lost the Iran war. Joe Kant, former head of counterintelligence, resigned over the start of the Iran war when the U.S. intelligence community told the White House and Congress that there was no imminent nuclear threat from Iran. He said, for the MOU to hold and result in lasting peace, we must restrict aid to Aardvark land immediately and make it clear that we will not defend them should Iran opt to strike in response to their attacks on Lebanon. Aardvark land has not responded to our verbal and written demands. That is not going to change unless we change it by taking action. Aardvark land claims sovereignty and continues to threaten our peace deal, yet they rely on us to bail them out. This is calculated. We have to respond accordingly and stop this cycle once and for all. Yeah, every time there's a peace negotiation, they whack the negotiator or they go massacre a bunch of civilians. We know the routine. Lead with action, remove their leverage, otherwise they will not take us seriously. An open SOH and peace in the region have been our focus. Aardvark land is plain spoiler. We must limit their ability to do so. Here's Trump on the Aardvark land mouthpiece Axios show.
If it weren't for Donald Trump and Bibi Netanyahu worked well with me, but he will tell you, we're the ones with the guns, we're the ones with the whole deal, we're the ones with the B-2 bombers, etc. If it weren't for Donald Trump, Israel would have been eviscerated.
Your relationship with Netanyahu's...
It's good, but we have to keep him a little bit sane.
Are you going to be able to control Israel from attacking Lebanon?
Yeah, I will be. I mean, I want. They have a lot of respect for me, and they
laughable there. And so you could blame Trump for all these massacres, according to him. As soon as the MOU was signed there in France, they went on a giant carpet bombing campaign in Lebanon. Trump has nothing in control, as evidenced by their actions. Here's some video. The Cradle posted. Who's the Cradle? Here now, a massive Aardvark land bombing campaign has struck southern Lebanon since dawn, with over 100 strikes, artillery barrages, drone attacks hitting dozens of towns and villages. Here's a short video of some of the damage you can see here. They're leveling the joint, i.e. Gaza Strip, i.e. creating an apocalyptic hellscape where people cannot return to their homes and property.
This is Ruqayya Shamsandina reporting from the southern Lebanese village of Arab Salim, where over the last hour and a half, Israel has unleashed a wave of at least 13 airstrikes and 1 drone strikes targeting the village. They have killed at least 6 people, including Hajj Haydar Hassan, Ali Hassan, Maryam Hassan, Imad Hassan, and Muhammad Nasr al-Din and his wife. Attacks on South Lebanon are ongoing. They include drone strikes, artillery shelling, and airstrikes. The latest airstrike was on the village of Bitchute. Since dawn, there have been over 100 attacks targeting South Lebanon.
And there's no peace deal. Here's a montage of all the attacks. This is not even all of them, right? Because we can't even fit them all into a montage. There's so many. Over 100 attacks, airstrikes. This is in the last 24 hours in Lebanon. It's just, wow, man, wow. And so there will be no peace talks in Switzerland. Think an aardvark. Bibi, shadow president of America, threatens Lebanon after resistance kills more invading soldiers into the Lebanese territory. He said this morning, I held a security assessment with the defense minister and chief of staff. My directive is clear. Aardvark land will not tolerate attacks on our soldiers or our territory, and it will exact a heavy price for Hezbollah for these attacks. The Aardvark land military will act to thwart any threat to our forces and our territory. You're the ones invading, bro. You know what I mean? But they act like, no, we're just getting the terrorists. No, you're invading Lebanon. As I made unequivocally clear, including yesterday, Aardvark land will remain in the security zone in southern Lebanon as long as necessary to protect the northern communities. Yeah, they're not giving back any of that occupied land now, as we showed you at the beginning on the IDF map. No such thing as a ceasefire on Aardvark lands, and military spokesman reaffirms full freedom of action in southern Lebanon. Like, there's a ceasefire, bro. Boom. There's no ceasefire following the announcement, and yet another ceasefire between Aardvark land and Hezbollah earlier today. Aardvark military spokesman Brigadier General Effie Defren said Aardvark forces retain full operational freedom of action. Like, seriously, what's the freaking point? To get a news headline, here's your ceasefire, and they're like, bang. You know what I mean? And it just goes on and on. It's the same routine in Gaza, in Lebanon. We're on the second, third, fourth ceasefire. Ceasefire, bro. Boom. That's how they roll. They whacked an environmental activist lady here. Very sad. She was trying to take care of these endangered sea turtles, and they whacked her. Very sad to learn that Mona Khalil died after weeks in the ICU following an Aardvark land airstrike. And so she was over there trying to save the sea turtles, and they whacked her. No good deed goes unpunished. Despite a ceasefire taking effect at 4 p.m. local time there in Lebanon, Friday, today, Aardvark land attacks continued across southern Lebanon, with local journalists reporting the death toll from Friday's attacks has risen to 55. And through the reporting, the death toll keeps rising. And they detail in this report from Dropsite News a bunch of the different attacks. Aardvark land soldiers were killed yesterday as they attempted to seize new territory in Lebanon south. Aardvark land responded by murdering Lebanese families in their homes. The Lebanese Ministry of Health says 55 killed and over 100 injured as of today. And this was in response to 4 Aardvark land soldiers killed by Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. The IDF responded with carpet bombing campaign on civilians. Just stop it, man. Trump, tell psychopath Bibi, stop it. 4 dead IDF soldiers. All sides stacking bodies. It's horrific. War is hell. Here are some of the dead Lebanese. There they are. The family is among at least 9 people reported killed in the attack on Horfu. And there's more. There's montages of all these. Oh, here's another one. And it goes on and on and on. Montages of little kids. There you go. All dead. Lebanon's Ministry of Public Health says the death toll since the strikes has risen to 47, and it just keeps, they keep adding, they keep stacking bodies, and it's ongoing. They're bombing them right now. It's ongoing. We can't even, Ruggles joking about tracking the days we've been at war. We can't even track the number of dead Lebanese because they just keep on bombing them for accuracy purposes. We're trying to report accurately here, but hey, as we're speaking, they're killing Lebanese civilians, women, and children. It's also quite horrific now, isn't it? Here's they lay out a bunch of them. Here they are. You can see in the different towns there. 9 killed, 6 killed, 3 killed, 2 killed, 7 killed, 2 killed, 2 killed, 4 killed, 2 killed, 8 wounded, 2 killed, 6 wounded, 3 wounded, 1 killed, 1 wounded, 1 killed, 3 killed. You can see laying it all out right here. It goes on and on and on and on. Here's Courtney Bonu reporting from the rubble there in Lebanon. Let's hear her report.
Hi, I'm reporting to you from the town of Haruf in the Nabatea area. I'm going to keep this short because they're actually shelling right now. Since midnight, the Israeli army has dramatically increased violent attacks in the Nabatea area, the Bekaa, and other areas of South Lebanon. Almost 50 towns and villages were targeted with airstrikes, drone strikes, and artillery shelling. On the way here, I actually captured a couple of strikes, an airstrike and a drone strike on Nabatea Road. Many families have been returning to the south in the last 2 days in hopes that the ceasefire deal would hold, and now many have been killed. The Lebanese Ministry of Health released a statement this morning stating that 18 people have been killed so far today in Israeli attacks. 7 of those people were here in the town of Haruf. We're in the center, we're not at the site, but you can take a look at the destruction here. This morning, I was listening to the BBC on the radio, and they actually reported that Israel was attacking Hezbollah targets. And, BBC, I want you to take a look at this family. I want you to take a look at this child, and I want you to tell me that these were Hezbollah targets. You should be ashamed of yourselves.
Indeed. Aardvarkland used white phosphorus in Lebanon. Now no one can go home. Displaced Lebanese cannot return to southern Lebanon because of Aardvarkland's documented use of white phosphorus in the villages. And they name what? 1, 2, 3, 5 villages here. Residents of southern Lebanon have nowhere to go. And they're also spraying glyphosate all over the place as well. On to Gaza now. Oxfam's global humanitarian policy lead told the United Nations Security Council that Aardvarkland has deliberately dismantled the humanitarian systems needed for Gaza's recovery, blocked organizations, including UNRWA and Oxfam, destroyed civilian infrastructure, and left Palestinians denied even the basic conditions to survive. Indeed, she said aid deliveries and truck counts are being used to create the appearance of progress while hospitals lack medicine and fuel, water, sewage systems remain in ruins, and families struggle to access food, clean water, shelter, and health care. They're going to push them into the sea or shoot you for crossing that yellow line. Aardvarkland forces have killed 238 children and 111 women since agreeing to a ceasefire there with Hamas since last October. with bringing the total of dead Palestinians since the ceasefire to 1,011 and wounded 3,173 Palestinians there since the ceasefire. Secret agents of evil here now. Mint Press reports Farah docs Aardvark land is spying on millions of Christian Americans in their churches and campuses. If you are a Christian living in the Western United States, you have almost certainly been targeted by pro-Aardvark land anti-Palestinian propaganda paid for directly by the government of Aardvark land. Your searches, location, and internet activity is being monitored by Aardvark land, and your algorithms and search results across multiple platforms are being manipulated by the Aardvark land government in what its American partner calls the largest geofencing and targeted Christian digital campaign ever, amid a massive drop in support from the Christian community. Bigots. They're a bunch of bigots. Aardvark land is sending millions of dollars to target individuals entering churches and Christian colleges with ads and paying pastors across the country to promote propaganda and false anti-Palestinian narratives. Every Sunday, documents filed with the United States Foreign Agents Registration Act, FORA, shows the 86-page disclosure reveals that Aardvark land is recruiting Hollywood celebrities and sports stars to promote the country while also manipulating Christian social media feeds, and they are doing it by spying on you through your phone. New documents reveal that Aardvark land is targeting every major church and college campus in California, Arizona, Nevada, Colorado, and others across Western states. Aardvark land has geofenced hundreds of churches and Christian colleges. If you enter those sites with your phone, you will be surveilled and blasted with pro-Aardvark land anti-Palestinian messaging. Over 8 million Americans are estimated to have been targeted by a campaign designed to assert Aardvark land's moral superiority and linking the Palestinian population to extremist factions. The campaign uses biblical arguments to highlight the importance of Aardvark land and the Aardvark people to Christians and counters new and evolving pro-Palestinian messages as the global narrative shifts. Is your pastor a secret Aardvark land agent, secret agents of evil? I'd say probably yeah. Official documents show Aardvark land has paid for at least 1,070 U.S. pastors to visit their country in order to become unofficial ambassadors of apartheid. You better check your Christian passengers out there telling you bullshit that it's God-chosen people and all this bullshit. It was made by the city of London, the Rothschilds. Bullshit. Save it. Burn in hell, Christian pastors that are agents of evil. How you like that? Burn in hell, you evil bastards. Celebrity agents of Aardvark land. More secret agents of evil here now. The documents show Aardvark land wishes to recruit actors like Chris Pratt and sports stars like Clayton Kershaw, is a baseball player for the LA Dodgers, and Stephen Curry, is a basketball player for Golden State Warriors, to become their spokesman. And it's come out also, side note, separate from this report, that Stephen Curry and a bunch of these sports guys have investments in tech companies in Aardvark land. They have a vested interest in the apartheid. In fact, Aardvark land is carrying out a genocide against Christians in Palestine. Indeed, They deserve it, right? Sure they do. According to your Christian pastor there, one of the 1,000+ corrupt evil bastards call themselves good Christians here in America. Has your church or college been targeted? Read the full investigation at Mint Press, and we'll link up to it. And maybe, I don't know, do your own research. Are you a victim of this geofencing, Christian targeting, digital Hasbra campaign? I don't know. Maybe just look the other way and yeah. And then, yeah, more proof of treason here in America. Laura Loomer, I guess everybody knows by now, Laura Loomer is a foreign agent, right? But then, and maybe everybody knows now, but we need to continue to report it because Laura Loomer is a small fish compared to Brad Paschal, former campaign manager, digital campaign manager for Trump in his first term there. Paschal is currently a registered, this guy, traitor to America. Paschal, Brad Paschal, is currently a registered foreign agent for Aardvarkland and is paid by Aardvarkland government to push pro-Aardvarkland views at Salem Media Group, where he works as a chief strategy officer. Salem Media Group owns 117 radio stations in 38 markets, as well as the conservative news sites Town Hall, Red State, Hot Air, and PJ Media. Paschal's firm has received $15 million from Hanvis Media Network, a PR group working for the Aardvarkland government. The Daily Mail reported, citing FORA documents, the firm will receive $4.5 million a month between April 1st and October 31st for a total of $46.5 million. And so right here, arrest this fool for treason. Where are you at? We don't have a director of national intelligence because she had to resign because her husband got cancer. Straight up treason from your good conservatives serving a foreign government. The bombing tents. Here's an image out of Mint Press again. Breaking. Aardvarkland airstrikes target a tent in Gaza al-Maswani area. This area was long advertised as a, quote, safe zone. It has become a death trap along with every place else in Gaza. Yeah. Yeah. So here's that image of, they're literally bombing refugees in tents. And same routine. They say that's a safe zone. Have some water with the humanitarian con. Like have some aid here. The little kid comes up with his little bowl, and they're like, boom. Go to the safe zone. It's safe for refugees. And that's how they roll. That's how they roll. Aardvarkland settlers launched coordinated 24-hour rampage across the occupied West Bank. These psychos, the ultra-Zionist settlers, and of course, all of this to thwart U.S.-Iran peace talks. And they're building the greater Aardvarkland project. So, yeah, attacking all across the occupied West Bank, 24-hour rampage of mayhem and violence going on there. And then trigger warning here, Aardvark hate. Aardvark on on Aardvark antiseptic hate. You could see out of Aardvark newspaper, Haaretz, Aardvark land is conducting a systemic campaign of ethnic cleansing and crimes against humanity in the West Bank. Indeed, here now, Umud Almert, and what we're going to do about this antiseptic. These are unprecedented and harsh accusations against the Aardvark land government and defense establishment, especially from a former prime minister. But after years of restraint, I have no choice but to make them. The fight against Aardvark land terrorism in the West Bank must advance to the next stage and be waged with greater determination. The daily terrorism that is managed, directed, and encouraged and supported by the state of Aardvark land can no longer be tolerated. What is happening across the West Bank today is not the work of 70s kids from broken homes, as Bibi once tried to claim disingenuously, nor are these crimes of a small, anomalous minority among settlement residents, as some leaders of the settlement movement have contended. Today, it must be said that the state of Aardvark land is conducting an organized, systemic, state-funded campaign of ethnic cleansing and crimes against humanity, not in the Gaza Strip, not in South Lebanon, not in Syria, but in areas of the West Bank that are under exclusive security control of the state and its security and law enforcement apparatus. And here's the heads of it. Old Cats and Bibi there. And it goes on. And it goes on. All right, that's all the reports I got today. Let's go to Iran International for headlines and wrap up this Friday broadcast. Lebanon tensions cloud path to Iran-U.S. talks. Pakistani Interior Minister set to visit Tehran. Democrats split over Iran deal as criticism grows on Capitol Hill. Iran's top Sunni cleric backs U.S. deal, says corruption could squander gains. Trump says Iran is finished. Experts say Tehran won big. Witkoff heads to Switzerland for potential U.S.-Iran talks. Remember who they send? Didn't they send Vance on a wild goose chase? I believe they did throughout this whole Iran war. I do believe it was Vance. They sent on a wild goose chase for peace talks that never materialized. All right, headlines out of Al Jazeera, and then we'll wrap up this show. Iran says you must pressure Aardvark land as deadly attacks on Lebanon tests the peace deal. UK moat. The ship tracker says Strait of Hormuz threat level remains moderate. What we know about Aardvark land's continued attacks on Gaza, Aardvark land PM announces a new fuel shipment. Comprehensive deal unlikely despite initial breakthrough, experts say. Yeah, they're massacring Lebanon right now as we speak. All right, friends, that's all the reporting we have for today. At least we had the good news story about saving cats in Vietnam. Upon the back of all of this doom, carnage, and agents of evil operating in our midst. At least the Ho Chi Minh City Police are trying to save some cats. Okay, over to the channels now. Let's check out the chat, if any, on the Odysee. Shout out to the Odysee chat there. Shout out to Fat Bob. Building America 2026, okay? How does he define American made? I ain't got no jaw. Fat Bob. Fat Bob won't tell you, but he is a talented musician. So, is Cliff Richard another PDF? I don't know, Keith. I remember tales of a guy named Gary Glitter from the same era. Are they both rainbows too? I don't know. Shout out to Huffman. Huffman said he looks Indian for me. Nickname the Peter Pan of pop. Soon to target some little white girl who goes online and reads antiseptic information. Tom Cruise is going to have to make another movie about this stuff. Yeah. Satellite dish covered in tinfoil will thwart it, Huffman says. Oh, man. Fruits like Hegseth and Rubio. Tom Cruise in Top Gun Maverick 3. The aging out operatives. John says, does Hegseth ever dove his character of bowling tough guy? No. That's his character, yeah. I hope Iran flattens Aardvark land. I would like to see those skyscrapers in Tel Aviv falling. Shout out to Scully working, trying to figure out. Yeah. Let's see. Sever our relationship with them, not just military aid, everything. Yeah. Hell yeah. In all reality, if we're the great humanitarians we claim to be, then we would, take action to stop. We would take serious direct action to stop their massacres, right? By whatever means necessary. Scully says, yes, it is a sad day for all true Americans, but I see that the UN has already been in control, and this is why God's plan is on schedule, and they will all be sent to the furnace. There are none in our government. The little season of these wicked Luciferians is all scheduled to be ended. Genocide is the Aardvark celebration on their religious holidays. Ritualistic blood sacrifices is, their thing. It's their thing. Scully said, you mean FORA that each attorney is supposed to comply with but don't, and others are, wow. 8 million now. Yeah, some of this Sabian Francis style Sam, yeah. That's what in fact, Bob, redemption through sin, including blowing up the world. Fat Bob says, true, Sam. And here I was going to get all settled in celebrating 250 years. Oh, man. All right, you guys, thank you for, let's see. Huffman says, sounds like you'd like notes on the scientific and religious mysteries of antiquity, old book, adult brain audio publishing on YouTube. Huffman has some, all you guys actually in the chat have great insights. I appreciate it in the Odysee chat and some good jokes as well. But yeah, I shall look that up. Notes on scientific and religious mysteries of antiquity. Yeah, that sounds very interesting. All right, thank you guys on the Odysee for the chats and tuning in. And again, I'll sort out the back end here now of patrons to the store, and so I will be working on that this weekend and try to get your items to you as quickly as possible. Thank you very much for the audience on Odysee. I appreciate you guys over there. Thank you for tuning in on X, Bitchute, Substack, Kick, Facebook, Rumble, and YouTube. We head over to the we'll just start here. Shout out to Mac on the YouTube. Shout out to Strong on the Rumble. Jaden said I got something on my chin. I did cut myself shaving here. Is that what you're talking about? Anyhow, thanks for noticing there. And thanks for making fun of my Gavin Newsom hair. I do appreciate it. Pamela on the Rumble says more PSYOP zero biology CRISPR clones grown in E. coli gain of function is purity, not ability to stuff into rats to make miracles. RNA cannot pandemic, it lacks replication fidelity. It gets bizarre and alien under the hood, Max says. Keep invisible enemy myth alive. Keep PCR swabs with zero diagnostic ability, but priceless human genome project DNA sequencing. Tulsi on technocratic script. Indeed. There, Pamela on the Rumble. Shout out to ATX on the Rumble. Zoe. Scott says liberalism is a mental disorder. Isn't that Michael Savage book? I believe it is. Eric says Epstein was a Democrat. He was a mega donor, and the Democrats covered for all these years. It's way above Republican Democrat. He was a super spy for the Rothschilds. Denver says, Chapter 11, risk of loss of trust in science. Maybe that was intended, something related to driving AI. War of behavioral paradigms, Max says. Tulsi, no. Wars of depression, Zoe said. Lovely says, I don't know if it's true, but her mother is an occult witch. I think the one we see now is a double. Huh. I don't know what's going on, but imagine Bezos. But image of Bezos they feed us is not the same old Bezos. Well, he's got on a bunch of juice, right? He's buff now. He's a buff billionaire CEO. Billionaires are their agents. Lovely says, yeah. Indeed. Democracy is an illusion. It doesn't exist. Wonder on the YouTube, yeah. Let's see. Lovely. Are the rich kids flying around reporting on these events? I would need 20K to fly in and report on what's going on in Giza. I looked into buying a ticket. Quite a few back and forth. I appreciate you guys in the chat there. Let's see. Kel on the YouTube, I think it was George Washington who said that the Second Amendment meant for citizens to have access to every weapon that the government has. Otherwise, the Second Amendment is useless. Well, remember when Biden said that, right? He's like, yeah, your Second Amendment, it don't matter because we'll freaking drone you, something to that effect. Mark says, why is it that all liberal males are rainbows? I don't know if all of them are, but why is it all these conservative politicians are closeted rainbows? Tom Cotton, Lindsey Graham, Donald Trump, look at them, man. Little Marco Rubio, friggin' Ted Cruz, they're all suspect rainbows, man. Just come out of the closet, bro. Obviously, Trump is pretending not to be part of the bad behavior there. Yeah. And Denver has some kind words for Aardvark land. I will not repeat here, but yes, I agree with you there, Denver, in that your assessment of these homicidal maniacs. Yeah, it looks like the U.S. Congress trusts them. Man, if they pass that NDAA, shout out to Carrie. She was gardening. Good job, Carrie. Good job there. Wretched Goy. Shout out on the YouTube. Secret Squirrel. Was it All-Star Ball Training? It says racism is a sin. Super spies are vulnerable to kryptonite, so says. All right, guys. I may or may not be on the well, I could check right now if I got any message. I may or may not be going on the boiler room with Ruckus and the crew over there. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like I got the link, so I will be going over there, parachuting in to give my 2 cents. So if you didn't get enough of Sam Cheney and his Gavin Newsom hairdo, I will be chiming in on the boiler room here in a few minutes. So tune into the boiler room and catch their news takes and analysis. All right, friends, as always, everybody do your own research, peace, love, and freedom. Speak out and take action. Have a great rest of your Friday evening, great weekend. And we'll be back here on Monday for more weaponized news. Let's pray for